All right. Welcome, everybody, to December 2025 Purdue Extension Hot Topics. I'm Courtney Schmidt, Extension Educator in Miami County, and we have Sarah Hanson today. She is Purdue's Food System Coordinator. She is here to talk to us about local food systems. And Sarah, if you want to go ahead and start it off, I'll hand it to you.
Yes, I wanted to get the right screen shared, so I'm all good there, I think, and got my microphone working. Yes, I'd love to jump in here and kick it off for us. Like you said there, I'm Sarah Hanson, and I work for Purdue Extension. It's been almost 13 years, um, but I am in this position of a food systems coordinator, and I've been in this particular role for just over 2 years. So I will explain that my role is not necessarily a certain department at Purdue. It doesn't fit into like Department of Agronomy or Animal Sciences or Horticulture. Instead, we are DFFS, Diversified Farming and Food Systems. That kind of touches a lot of different areas in the College of Ag. So just wanted to maybe start with telling you what DFFS is. Also gonna give you a disclaimer that I am not a farmer, even though this is going to talk a lot about food and farming. I did, however, grow up on a farm. The picture, if you guys can see, hopefully the bottom right, that's my dad. He still is in southern Indiana and raises cattle on pasture and hay. And then I put this here as if you guys maybe have already seen it before, the Purdue, what we call EEO statement, because anytime Purdue Extension has a program, we want to make sure you're aware that we don't discriminate. So you're part of our community, and that's why everybody who's involved needs to know this. All right. I wanted to show you this picture just because I am excited to talk about food. All of my meetings all day long are about food, and which makes me really hungry. Um, but I also want to connect with you guys, not just on the Sarah show, me telling you how excited and passionate I am for everything. But I would love to know from you guys, what's your favorite local food item to buy? You can put it in the chat. I bet many of you buy at the farmer's market or you're involved with a CSA, community supported agriculture. There's also, of course, local food that you can sometimes get from restaurants and grocery stores and other places. So I'll try to look at the chat if it'll let me. I'd love to see you guys go ahead and type in there what's your favorite food. Could be honey, pork chops, eggs, cheese, produce. What is it that you like to get from local producers here in Indiana?
We have eggs, yes, beef, Marty,
Party.
corn,
Awesome.
honey, especially the various flavors, yes. My husband and I have been buying mushrooms when we see the mushroom growers there at the farmer's market. Really like that.
Wonderful. Well, feel free to keep putting those in there. Just kind of wanted to let you guys tell me about what you like in terms of local food. And you're right, Courtney, like mushrooms, we have so many creative people in Indiana in terms of like I've bought dehydrated mushroom powder, stuck it in my coffee. There's just so many neat things and ways for people to kind of do the traditional, farmers market, fresh produce and eggs and whatnot. But then um, we're getting pretty creative as Hoosiers.
Yeah, and I especially like it too because I have to be gluten free, and there's a lot of small local bakers that bring gluten free items. So love that.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of baked goods that are often, yeah, what I would call value added type things where somebody's done a lot of different baking, granola, cupcakes, bread, whatever. Then we have sauces and other neat things as well. So here, just wanted to, quickly tell us what the plan is for what we're going to talk about. I'm going to discuss a little bit deeper what food systems are. I know some people are familiar with that term. Other people are scratching their head right now, like, what is she talking about? Um, then specifically, I'll talk some on my role as a food systems coordinator. And I tried to be a little bit more heavy on my slides of how this applies to you. Everybody here is a consumer. I'm certain of that. Everybody eats food. Some of you in the room might even be farmers. If you are, if you've ever been a farmer or whatever, put that in the chat too. It helps me to know who my audience is. All right. And as you were thinking about the different things you like to buy, local, I'm guessing here's some of the reasons why you might enjoy them. And I feel pretty strongly about it as well. The local food is delicious. We have a lot of more fresh things, as maybe you go to a farmer's market. Um, Probably they harvested it the day before, or maybe even that morning. They got up really early. This stuff is really fresh. And then, there's research to tell us that these things that are very fresh, they haven't traveled a lot of miles to get to you. When you eat them, you get more nutrients. There's also, research, it applies to eggs and meat, other things as well, the local honey and the different types, just more nutrition in these foods that are fresh and locally sourced. And it does depend, like, what did the chicken eat? What did the cow eat before they gave us this product? They are what they eat, and therefore we are what we eat. So I mentioned the food miles. That's something that, especially if you're thinking environmentally and freshness, that matters. But also then as you buy whatever products you buy, or, look further into learning about the farmers around you and what they're producing, this gives you a chance as a consumer to then be connected and know who's growing your food, what is going into the food. So there is that engagement. If you guys, yeah, if you've been to a farmer's market, you can just see, well, especially a successful farmer's market, it's an event. It's a whole community of people coming together. It's just a social place to be. People want to hang out. And so local food kind of fosters that. It doesn't always have to be at a farmer's market. I mean, that's probably the most common place. But like I mentioned, there are these CSAs where it's like a food subscription box with local farmers. And then you can also find a lot of more and more local products in different grocery stores and whatnot. So this is a way for you to support those farmers and support your community. And then I would also argue supporting your health. If you're eating things that are more nutritionally dense, it's going to have a beneficial effect for your health. So somebody kind of mentioned the sweet corn. I saw that in the chat earlier. There's a seasonality to eating local, which I love. I mean, as much as it's good, yes, there are strawberries in my fridge right now. Those are out of season. But when they are in season, it's much better. And so there's something to be said about when it's sweet corn season or it's strawberry season. Here in Indiana, enjoying those things that you're only going to get them and they're going to taste amazing for this couple of months. So we can really savor those fantastic things. Okay, so here is where we dive in just a little bit about food systems. I went onto Google, you can get images of everything, and I found a food system map that I like the best. You guys are welcome to go onto Google and find different ones because there's many different ways to describe what is a food system. I like this one because of the way it divides it into the 4 different pieces. You guys see the main 4 colors. And then there's a bunch of stuff on there I bet you can't see because the font is so tiny. I apologize. What that tells us is that food systems are complex. They have a lot going on. But briefly here, let's just walk ourselves around clockwise. We're going to start with the orange there at the top, the farming part of it. I mean, that's fairly simple in terms of the production. In this example, it shows a cow on some grass and it shows the sun up above her. So it's literally whatever farmers are raising, you know, the things naturally in the environment, they're using them to grow food for us. And then as we work our way around to the blue piece is economic. And so that could be so many different things. Maybe it's the business skills of the farmer. I would argue that farming is a business because if you're not making money, you're going to probably not be farming for too long. All these great people that we want to support, if we don't purchase from them, it's going to be really hard for them to be viable and keep going. So there's economics to it in terms of the farmer has to have skills to keep records and market their products, sell things. So business skills are pretty important. And then there's also like community aspects of, do we have labor? Are there going to be farm workers to be a part of this system? Are they going to be skilled farm workers that are going to be, you know, really helpful? And even the markets, the places like not every county has a farmer's market or a farm stand. If those pieces of the economic puzzle don't exist, that definitely makes this more difficult. Moving around to the purple section, we find social, and that really could be anything from food pantries, community gardens. You'll notice that kind of woven in there with the social, because it involves people, is our healthcare system. Like I said before, kind of the idea of what food we're eating then affects our health. There are other things, obviously, that affect our health too, but it's a piece of it. Political system is even honestly tucked in here as well, because policies around farming and food and health, it's all related. And then the last part, the green there, is environmental. And that could refer like to what we talked about earlier, those miles, how far did your food travel to get to you? But there's also things like food waste, for instance. If 20% of all the apples grown end up somewhere in a trash can or just rotting, that's food waste. That has an environmental impact that's not always good. Does anybody else want to add to this, or are there other things that you could think of that go into play here, or questions about the complicated, complex system? I might even add in processing and logistics, because as I work with farmers, even if they have the greatest, whatever it is, products in the world, and the people over here that are demanding those products, if there isn't the infrastructure for transporting it, or maybe the processing of turning their pumpkins into puree, all of that has to be there too. It's not just enough to have a supply and a demand. We have to have transportation to get it places too. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one to sort of also take a step into the direction of extension, like looking at this through my role didn't exist a couple years ago, but now it does. And even though I'm tucked into A&R, the Ag and Natural Resources, which I think you guys are pretty familiar with, my role does cross into our other program areas. For instance, health and human sciences. Those educators that work in HHS, they talk about a lot of different things, not just food, but it's a large piece of it. For instance, food safety. The Department of Health has a bunch of regulations for how things need to be done safely. We don't want everybody to get food poisoning. So oftentimes, people that are producing food, like you mentioned, the person baking bread, they have to know what regulations they need to follow and what licenses they might need to get. So we run into questions around that kind of stuff. Also food preservation, nutrition. And this is, of course, working with adults and youth. Then community development, that's the CD piece of this. I would say this is mostly building relationships. It definitely has to do with business and economics, developing a community to be resilient, but it might be something like an organization that wants to get more funding and they have to learn about writing grants. So that comes into play when it comes to our food system as well. This one here that's CWC stands for Community Wellness Coordinators. Unfortunately, our funding federally for that was cut back in September. So we don't actually have those people anymore, but I still left them in my PowerPoint because the need for this type of education has not gone away. Those community wellness coordinators worked with low income folks. They worked with adults and children. It might have been related to like SNAP programs and WIC programs, anything that's food security and how do you buy nutritious food for a family when you're struggling to have ends meet. That need, as you guys know, still exists, all over Indiana. And so we're trying our best, along with other organizations, to meet that need. Then the last bullet point, obviously, maybe the most famous part of Purdue Extension is our youth program, 4-Hers. And of course, they do a bunch of various projects. But in terms of food, my role crosses paths with them around school gardens, local food in the cafeteria. Often, more and more cafeterias are just considering the idea of buying some local food. And then, of course, we want our students to be educated about where food comes from and nutrition. All right. And I will say my presentation jumps around a little bit for two reasons. One, that's just how my brain works. And two, I think it helps people to stay a little bit more awake and engaged because it's a little bit all over the place. This is where I wanted to insert some myths. I don't know if, as I'm talking about food systems and local products, farmers, I might be preaching to the choir some, but I also know there are doubts that arise in people. For instance, this first myth, I'm going to have to buy all my food locally, otherwise there's no point. People might think, well, if I just purchase here and there once in a while from the local farmer, it doesn't really make a difference, so why should I even bother? Excuse me. And I would definitely say, I mean, I've seen research very much to the contrary that even like $5 a month that you buy that supports local farmers and local food producers, it does make a difference. There is economic input with keeping dollars local, and so it is important. Excuse me, I'm gonna get a cough drop. The second one here is that buying local food is always more expensive. People sometimes associate local food with being healthy, and rightly so. It is often more healthy. And then they think, well, eating healthy is expensive. So there's another reason why, maybe just they're counting it out from the get-go. If you really did look closely at prices, especially produce, locally sourced produce can be very affordable. Oftentimes with a farmer, the more you get to know them and you build a relationship with them, they're even going to potentially give you a discount. But I find buying in-season local produce to be really affordable. And then I know some of the stuff, it is a bit more expensive, I'm going to be honest, especially meat and eggs and dairy products. It's not the same price that if you just go to Walmart and you're in the food aisle, it's going to be different. But I would make the argument that buying, let's say, meat that is from an animal that spent most of its life on pasture is different from meat where the animal didn't spend very much time, if any, outside. Same for the chickens. So there's different benefits of the value that's added in the products depending on what you've bought. And Courtney, I think I see, I don't know, something popped up on my screen about the chat box. Let me know if there are questions or anything.
We're still good. I was going to pop in and say I've noticed that in our Kroger, there's a section in the aisles of local food products now. And I really like to check that out and I like to see what's there. And I'm so glad that the grocery stores are starting to devote some shelf space to local Indiana foods and local growers.
Yeah, I would agree. This kind of does ebb and flow, depending on where you're at. This picture, I live in central Indiana. We have some convenience stores that are called Leo's. It's actually like kind of a gas station with a store hooked onto it. That's got really amazing stuff. The people of Leo's, this whole section that they got in the picture, it's local Indiana products. So there's some barbecue sauces and honey and maybe some jelly, different things. That tells me a couple things that they feel that this is going to be successful. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dedicated space to it. And then, each time somebody buys that, it sends a message as we shop and vote with our dollars. If all that barbecue sauce does fly off the shelf, it tells the owner of the store, there's a demand for this. We should keep it going. And I'm pretty sure that whoever makes whatever, this sauce, this jelly, they're going to be thrilled to, potentially have increased sales, whether it's a small, like mom and pop grocery store. Yeah, I've seen it, Meijer, Kroger, they do. They have these different sections that they're dedicating towards local products, which is really exciting. And you guys might even look real close and see that label that says Indiana Grown. That is a program to help promote our local Indiana food artisans. And that Indiana Grown program is through our Department of Ag.
And Marty has a comment here in the chat that people like the freshness, nutrition, and better taste and feel it's worth the difference in price. Feels good to have a local connection to the community. And I totally agree, Marty.
Yep, totally agree as well. But I know not everybody feels the same, and sometimes it is hard to just like, oh, wow, why are these eggs $7 a dozen? I understand, parting ways with your money isn't always easy. But when you feel good about what you've bought, and you don't have to do it all the time, that's kind of the part of like the first bullet point. Oh my goodness, I'm not asking anyone to, by any means, like 100% of everything you buy should be local. That would be a bit too much. Start small, have a goal of, like I said, $5 a week, $5 a month. If you can use it to support local food, it does make a difference. You don't need to jump whole hog into it, and it's just that's not going to be a realistic goal.
Yeah. Dawn says it's fun just to walk through the farmer's market. And I agree. I love it. That's one of our favorite Saturday morning activities is walking through the farmer's market and seeing what's different and what's available there and people bringing their dogs to the market and it's can be a really good time.
Yeah, I would agree. It does a lot for the community. The farmers like it because it's a great starting point for anybody who kind of starts out as a farmer. That's typically the way they're going to sell. So it has that incubator effect to maybe help them grow their business and go further if they want to. Okay, yeah, keep it coming. If there's comments and questions from the chat, I'm happy to work through that. If not, I'm going to just talk a little bit more about the other bullet points on here with the myths. Sometimes
Sure.
people say in Indiana we can't grow food in the winter. That's false, of course, because we have winter farmers markets in different places. At the very least, you've got freezer meat. But there are many places around Indiana where we're growing produce undercover. We have high tunnels, and a lot of things that also can be preserved in jars or freeze dried, whatever. You can buy Indiana food products all year long. And oftentimes I think that gets in the way of a hurdle for maybe like community gardens and school programs and things where the seasons don't line up just how we want it to, but pretty much you can grow something almost all year long. This last one here is a little bit different. Some people think that as they walk through the farmer's market, everything here must be organically grown, and it also must be local. That's kind of a misconception, and this is where I encourage everyone to ask questions. In this Indiana climate, I bet you guys know growing just about anything is hard in terms of diseases and insect pests. Some of the farmers will use pesticides. They're going to try every which way they can to have a healthy crop. And like I said, it's a business. They want to stay in business. They do not want the caterpillars to eat up everything and then they don't have stuff to sell. Usually, if they go so far as to become certified organic, they're going to display that proudly because it takes a lot of work to be actually certified organic. But this is your chance, again, not to just go buy the stuff and take it home and eat it. That's great. But connect with the person who grew the food, ask them questions. An example here, I was shopping in central Indiana. I forget what time of year it was, but they had peaches, and I just kind of thought, wow, surprising, and I just asked the young lady behind there, did you guys grow these here in central Indiana? And she's like, no, it's actually from like Clark County down in southern Indiana. Um, and that's fine. I mean, I'm okay with that, no problem. But there's not like a definition of local that's regulated. So some farmers markets, they will actually say, everybody who is a vendor here, we set the rule that our definition of local is 100-mile radius. But not every market's like that. And so feel free to ask. It's not going to hurt the farmer's feelings if you're just wanting to know more about what they did to grow the food. Ask where it came from, if it's from their farm or another person's farm. And you're the one that's going to be taking it home to eat it, feed it to your family. So I think it's nice to ask questions.
Yeah, and Marty commented in the chat that talking to the people there it's great to feel their passion for what they've produced.
Yes. Um, Anybody who talks to farmers and you ask them, why are you doing this? What is the reason that you're a farmer? Especially the people that are growing what we call table food. So fruits, vegetables, meat, eggs. People that are growing those things, they never say, oh, I'm just here making money. Their answer is always because I want to grow healthy food and feed my community and feed my family. They are really passionate about it. And they just all seem to be kind-hearted people that are trying to do the best for the environment and feed us. All right, I'm going to move on just for the sake of time, but it's okay to interrupt me. Again, this is sort of a little bit of talking about my role and what I do, but also giving you an example from whatever shoes you guys sit in, ways that you and I could work together. We can collaborate, we can partner. For instance, the picture is Legacy Gardens, which is up near Muncie. And I visited an event that they were having. So I'll explain kind of as you see in the picture, there's a pepper field, pretty large field that we're next to. And then there's a homeschool group of kids that are being educated by a person with Purdue Extension. She's talking about nutritious ways to kind of change up recipes. I think she had some brownies that were made with black beans. And so giving these kids information, doing a taste test, like learning about inexpensive ways to make food healthier. So all in all, it was a way for me to learn about the farm and to see this program that they do as they partner with different community groups, and then to see what do they need from me. Like maybe they want to know, in this case, they grow what they call snack peppers, the small peppers that are not spicy. And she was just looking for more avenues to sell them. Eventually, I think they did get into selling them to schools because snack peppers are great through the cafeteria line. And they've expanded to also like buy a property where they have a farm market for the community. But so maybe you guys, I don't know, as the audience are involved with farming, like I said, or you're a value added producer. You might be doing something that's home based. Oftentimes that's baked goods or sauces. Then there are commercial producers, people that use like a commercial community kitchen to do things a little bit bigger scale. Maybe you're affiliated with a health organization or an ag organization. There are ways for you and I to partner, or you volunteer with the school. You're a vendor at a local farmers market. Maybe you're part of a hunger relief organization, a food pantry. I'm not sure which backgrounds everyone's coming from, but these are kind of some of the groups that I cross paths with and work with. You just never know, like who's going to call you up next and have a question about something or a way that I can be helpful to them. And then this is a web page, essentially. It's a picture. I'm not going to be able to click on it and take you to each of these, but Courtney has the link. She can share it to you guys maybe either now or later or both. And what I've done is with the food systems webpage, divided it into these four sections. So for example, under the consumer section, you would learn more about the Indiana Grown program. While it is something that farmers can use to help promote their products, it's also great for consumers. Let's say you want to find a certain type of product, you can literally put in your county and what it is you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for goat milk soap. They can help you find that as a consumer. Um, then let's see, under the business and entrepreneurship part, you would learn more about Purdue has a entrepreneurship manufacturing institute, and there are workshops that you can attend depending on circumstances, possibly for free, a part might be for a cost, but they have different programs through Purdue, also through like Indiana Small Business Development Center, just lots of things that as you go down the avenue of producing food um, and learning more about business, I don't know, there's just a lot of T's to cross, I's to dot, and you often don't know what the things are that you need to do until you get there. So we're trying to make it easier and help people along the way with some information. But yes, there's also, like I said, a whole section on food safety because that's really important. And I just feel like there's always questions. No matter how many answers I give out, there are more questions on these things coming in. So yeah, I would recommend you guys look at the link later, kind of explore these, and feel free to send me feedback like, hey, Sarah, you forgot this. This should be included in that section. Or if you just have questions, that's totally fine to send it my way later on. Here I wanted to talk about sort of things that I've seen over the past couple years as I talk to different people and visit them. Certain needs have bubbled to the top. This first bullet point is probably the one that I don't know if I've just heard the most about business and marketing related to agriculture and food and farming, or it's because I like those things. That's where my ear always perks up a little bit more um, when it comes to those topics. But I think it's a big one. Like I said before, in order for a farm or any kind of food business locally to be successful and to keep going, it's a business and we want them to be able to, at the very least, sustain that business, but hopefully expand it. It's good for them. It's good for the local economy. Oftentimes, when people go into this, they might have the knowledge on how to make really good baked goods or how to get the best goat cheese, but they don't always know the business side of things and the marketing side of things. So it just seems like there's a big need for more information that way. And along that same vein, we've kind of heard more and more people talk about non-direct to consumer sales channels. So all of this chat that we've had about farmers markets and how wonderful they are, that is a direct to consumer sales channel. Um, and some people just, they want to dip their toe in. Well, what if I start selling to a chef at a restaurant? What if I start selling to the local grocery store? At that point, you're looking at an intermediary sales channel. And so other places might include like distributors. Maybe you guys are familiar with Piazza Produce. There's other distributors around Indiana that carry local products. Even schools and institutions, like I said, as they're procuring some local food, this would be the different places where for a farmer, I mean, imagine if you could have some sort of contract that instead of dragging several boxes to a market and hoping you sell it all, what if the contract is, okay, well, XYZ company agrees to buy all the stuff, probably at a little bit lower price because they're buying in bulk, but you would move more product quickly if you use these wholesale channels. So we have a program that we essentially purchased from Kentucky Extension, and now we deliver it in Indiana. It's called Market Ready. I have a flyer on it later, so I can send that to you guys to sort of give you more specific information on that Market Ready program. Other things that have bubbled to the top here include, again, that infrastructure, like I mentioned, around processing, and aggregation, food hubs, transportation of the products. All of that stuff's pretty important to have in place. I don't know that Purdue Extension can make that happen. A lot of it just requires either funding or, I don't know, grants, something to make it happen, and that's tough, but it's a big need that I've heard about. The last one here is food as medicine, which is a great topic that's also gaining momentum. Essentially, think of what if a doctor wrote you a prescription for healthy food, and then you could go get a box of healthy food and take it home. And in an ideal world, what if the insurance even covered part of the cost of that box of healthy food? And as you continue to, you know, take your medicine by eating this healthy food, your health improved. You no longer have that chronic illness. That's the idea behind it. I mean, I know there's other states that are ahead of us that are putting things into place in terms of policy. It varies a lot in how the program is carried out, but I think just more and more people in the whole system, whether it's the person growing the food, the person eating the food, the healthcare doctors, just more and more people are kind of realizing certain ways that we can have less people with chronic disease issues. If there's other things that you guys have heard of, I mean, as you're out there throughout Indiana, I would love to hear it. That's how I even know about the things that are on this slide in the first place, is by talking to folks and hearing their side of it. So feel free to let me know if you have other suggestions.
I know we've been doing food as medicine programming here in Miami County. We've
Mhm.
had 3 programs with that so far where people are getting nutrition education and then taking produce boxes home so that they can prepare the recipes that we give them. And we're having excellent feedback on that. People dropping their A1C scores and losing weight. It's been really, really good.
Thank you. I love hearing that because it is pretty much what you hear. If somebody sticks to it, and if the program can be made feasible, one way or another, then it tends to work and it tends to have really good outcomes. All right, I'm gonna keep moving because this is something I'm passionate about. All of this, I could just talk for hours. I don't want to put you guys to sleep. Instead, I want to, again, make sure that you're aware of, because something tells me, all of you who are on here, this is not your first interaction with Purdue Extension programs. You're familiar with us, Purdue Extension, and how we can support our stakeholders when they have questions about typically growing things. That's what, especially in the A&R world, um, people come with questions about, what is this weird disease killing my plants in my backyard garden? Or if it's a community garden, why do we have these weird worms all over the tomato leaves? We're here to help people find answers to questions like that so that their gardens can be successful, but also farmers, whatever it is, you're growing some kind of plant or some kind of animal. And similarly, you'll run into issues. You're going to run into issues again about business as well. So we have, the whole ag economics department. There's a team of people that's their thing. They do all day, every day. So I don't pretend to say I have the answers to every question that we've, come across here today. But at the very least, I can guide you towards getting the right answer through connecting you to a person who might be an expert on whatever topic it is that you need to find an answer about. Um, and then last but not least here, partnerships. Oftentimes, if you're involved in your community, then you're trying to grow partnerships with other people. And that's something also that we can do because Extension is kind of out there all over talking to different stakeholders. And oftentimes we might hear this person's got this going on and that person's got another idea. Wow, these two people need to meet each other and talk to each other. Um, or maybe somebody's too scared to get connected to somebody else, like, oh, I don't know that person. They seem so busy. We can be the in-between to connect you and get people hooked up that way. I also want to mention that, there are great things like this, which is a live webinar here today. Of course, we also have field days, we have conferences, publications. So whatever fits your need. I know not everybody loves going to in-person things. Maybe it's hard to get away from work to travel. Maybe the publication, just reading a few quick pages at your kitchen table is a little bit more your speed. We have that as well. Here's a specific example that I wanted to share because Food Link has existed within Purdue Extension for many years, but I don't know that it gets promoted enough. I'm a big fan, so I kind of like to shout it from the rooftop, letting people know that it exists. So you can literally Google Purdue Extension Food Link, or maybe Courtney can put it in an email to you guys afterwards. The website, it's helpful for consumers, but then it's also helpful for farmers. And I'm going to start, I guess, with the consumer side. As you can see here, like for instance, the persimmon, this picture bottom left, it's going to show us, if I click on it, nutrition information about the persimmon, how to prepare it. Is this something that should be in the fridge, or should I just sit it on the counter when I'm getting ready to cook it and eat it within the next few days? Do I wash it? Do I take these little tops off, or do I eat those crunchy things? If you're not familiar with the persimmon, then you're going to need to learn about it to feel more comfortable cooking it and enjoying it because it's amazing. I can share my persimmon cookie recipe with you if you really want to know. Um, so things like this help the consumer to feel more confident. But then from the farmer side of it, imagine if you have a farm store or a stand and you could put up these informational cards. So look closely, like in the picture with all the peppers. There's some small cards with QR codes that if a person is maybe just a little hesitant to ask questions about whatever it is that they see the farmer selling, they can use their smartphone, quickly scan the QR code and get more information about, well, how would I select a good pepper? And again, how would I store it? How would I cook it? What if I'm doing some kind of preservation with my food? All that information is there for them. And like, as you can see, the picture on the top is kind of a display of all the different cards. Farmers can get these, they can use them. The kohlrabi one is blown up very big there on the top left. That's again something that people are not familiar with. And maybe it's hard to sell kohlrabi. If it's just laying there on the table and nobody knows what it is, they're afraid to ask, like, what is that weird thing? And they're definitely not going to buy it. Or if they do buy it, they're going to take it home and it's just going to sit there and rot because it's like, I'm not sure if I should eat it fresh or cook it. This is again providing more information and hopefully increasing sales as farmers are able to educate their shoppers.
I was going to comment for the master gardeners on the group. We have a demo garden at the fairgrounds, and our junior master gardener kids plant it every year. And I use this food link to identify what's growing in the garden beds, and I get some real quick little facts about it and put on a little poster that goes out into the garden bed so the fairgoers and people that come onto the fairgrounds can see. It's just a super easy resource for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool. I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. I've even
Oh,
heard, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. It was a comment for Marty. I
Okay.
was gonna.
Oh, okay. Um, some people with their gardens, demonstration gardens, like what you're talking about, have even gone so far because they have volunteers that are harvesting and they don't always know, like, when should I harvest this thing? So they've got like informational cards that let the volunteer learn more about it that way.
Yeah. So Marty, going back to the previous slide, he says he works with a group called KIRAG, which is an ag strategy group for bringing infrastructure into Indiana and an 8 county region that encourages more local processing and identifying needs to keep local products in the region versus always shipping everything out of the region. I do know there are groups out there that are, and maybe Marty, maybe you and I, maybe it's the same group, but that are working on that kind of policy side.
Yeah, maybe we need to have a little meeting and chat more about that because I've heard kind of some stirrings as well. Like Northwest Indiana in particular has a lot of good things going on and even more coming down the pipeline. So, all right, I'm going to move on then. This is what I was telling you about the Market Ready program, where we discuss things that if you're going to sell to a wholesale buyer, you have a whole nother, you know, pile of things that you've got to learn that are different. Now you're going to be probably doing delivery, you're going to be doing invoicing. You've got to make sure that the quality is great from the time it leaves your farm until it reaches the school or the restaurant or whatever. So there's relationship building with your new buyers, there's different packaging and labeling that's required, all these things that when someone decides to potentially go down that avenue of exploring a new sales channel, they need to learn these things, and we try to help them out. So we've done it in person. It's kind of an all-day type program. Let's see, we did it most recently in Evansville, but we've had it in Central Indiana. We're about to do it in Northern Indiana, Marshall County, January 21st. I've got the registration link. It's open right now. If anybody has interest, I'll happily send that your way. So that's the Market Ready program, not to be confused with the Farmers Market program, which that one is for people that are selling direct to the consumer. Um, we've got a couple of these coming up as well. I'm going to be doing in person with the Marion County Extension folks starting at the end of January. I guess don't pay attention to it. It talks about dates and times on this picture. Those are old. The in-person Marion County one, I think, is going to be every Tuesday afternoon starting January 27th. You get a really large manual that goes with it. And like I said, it's 4 sessions where we talk about things like insurance, um, risk management, food safety, and home-based vendor laws. That's always a really hot topic that we cover. We talk about how to keep the market going and keep it strong so it doesn't fizzle out. We talk about nutrition incentive programs and, surprisingly, conflict management. You'd be surprised how much conflict there can be between the vendors, the consumers, the market manager. It happens. I mean, there's humans involved, so of course conflict arises, and that is one of the sessions that we cover as well, which is, I think, helpful. Um, we get really good feedback on this program. We also do a virtual option. That one will start in March. I forget exactly. It's a 4 Thursday evenings starting in March. And so the virtual one, we don't yet have the registration link for it, but anyone who's interested in any of these, definitely, you'll have my email address and you can reach out. So looking forward just a little bit. We hope to, we being Purdue Extension and me, myself, just continue to support any local food producer. They need technical assistance around a lot of these topics that we've discussed today. And we do that, it's not just us, but also working with other partners. For example, I know the ISDA is working on creating an online portal to assist farmers, helping them to kind of have that one-stop shop of like all these information things related to your farm business. Here's where you go and you get that information. We're looking at some farm to school teams, and then I'm currently involved with a group that's around food business consulting. So that's kind of been really busy lately with these different creative food entrepreneurs that we have in Indiana looking for some, you know, more information on what they can do to ramp up their business. And then last but not least, there is potentially, if we hear back on a grant, to let us know if we can expand an existing farmer apprenticeship program. Just because there's so much work to be done on a farm. And then anybody who wants to get into it, if you're new, there's a lot to learn. And so that's just a perfect pairing when you can have a farmer apprenticeship. Okay, so here's kind of some shameless plugs for events that are coming up. The Indiana Small Farms Conference is being combined with the Indiana Horticulture Conference. That's March 3, 4, 5 in Danville, Indiana. Also, this is not a Purdue Extension event per se, but the cooperative development folks of Indiana are bringing this farmers market forum back to in person. It's been virtual for like probably 3 or 4 years, and we're ready to be back in person. So I'm helping as they organize and carry this really cool event out in February. This is kind of just as we get towards wrapping it up. We've had good discussion, hopefully, you know, different good comments. And this is what I find. I think you guys probably find similar things as you connect to other folks, is that eventually it does lead to the answers you're looking for. And it might be stuff like this. It's a webinar where you meet other people and you hear about new things, or going to a field day, going to a market, you know, just being around other people and connecting and learning from each other. So that takes us to the end with my email address for everybody to contact me. I'd be happy to chat more with you.
We do have a question from Aaron. Do you have a list or link to all farmers markets by counties and dates?
Ooh, that would be fantastic to have. I don't have it, and I don't necessarily think that anybody else has it either. Probably the closest you're going to come is the USDA. You know, that's a federal thing, and they have through the Ag Marketing Service, AMS, they kind of keep a directory of farmers markets where you can type in your location and they'll tell you, you know, by their records, what they have listed. It might also go so far as to tell you, like, for instance, okay, you put in Marion County, it's going to show you Indianapolis Winter Market. It's every Saturday morning. I don't know if they're going to go to that depth of detail. At the very least, it'll give you location. And the sad part of it is anytime you make a list, it goes out of date immediately. So it's very hard to keep it up and running. But that'd probably be my first choice to try to locate something like that. I can give your feedback to the Indiana Farmers Market Community of Practice to see if they have a list like that or if they have interest in making a list like that. Because if you're looking for something very comprehensive and statewide, it might be difficult to come by. But if you have like a specific something else that you're looking for, you and I could chat and try to figure it out. Other questions or thoughts?
Nothing so far. Um I appreciate you being on today, Sarah, and this has been really good information. I'm going to send out an email with more of the resources and links that we've talked about.